Okay, I think are we live on your page? Are we live in the group? Or are we
We're
live?
live. Yep, we're live on my page. So, hello and welcome. Always fun to be with everyone on Facebook. And so, Ella and I are here again to just have another kind of fun Akashic Record conversation. And so, if you are showing up live on Facebook, I would love to hear your questions, whatever that might be that's showing up for you too, about the Akashic Records. How can I help you and support you? What would you like to know about the Akashic Records and how they can help you to expand your life, to heal your life, to transform your life? That's what I always want to do. Let's transform our lives. So, right? I know Ella was talking last time we did this. You were saying that you've actually found quite a bit of transformation since we've known each other, Ella, and you've been kind of getting Akashic information and all of that.
Hugely, yeah. Sorry, I was just figuring out where we were live, so I was gonna throw the I'm putting the links for a super powerful free meditation in the comments right now. And then and there's gonna be another fun one that's coming in a sec. But yeah, absolutely. And you were saying this is what was interesting to me just before I went live, is that you notice that a lot of your followers or a lot of people in your community, they shy away from actually booking a call because they don't necessarily want to be railroaded or bombarded. So what are you noticing there? Because I think a lot of the time we don't take action because there is a question that just came through from Ran. We'll get to that in a sec. A lot of time people don't take action because, we're scared we're just going to be sold to, or we don't really, I don't know, like there's just that hesitancy there. So what are you finding there?
Well, it's been really interesting because, of course, I access the Akashic Records to help people to heal and transform their lives. Mm-hmm. And I do readings and I teach online classes. So up until this very moment, I have been just kind of sending out some emails to people on my list about my next live class. And I've been, doing these 3-week classes, and people love them. And a lot of people truly start to access their own Akashic Records and learn how to do the healing that I teach, and they start to transform their lives from that very first course. And then often about half or more of the people go on to the second course and deepen into the Akashic Records and get more healing tools and information. And we dive into all of these expansive realms of the Akasha. So in the past, I've taught course 1 and course 2, sometimes a month or 2 or 3 apart. So recently, the record keeper said, there's so much profound energy coming to the planet right now. And so many people are really waking up, right? Getting more conscious and are ready to dive into the Akashic Records. And so they said, we want you, they told me, right, to teach people to access their own really Akashic self-mastery, to master the records of your soul. And so we've decided to do this as a 2-month workshop. But because it's $300, not because, because it's more than $300. Usually my classes were, $320, $400, whatever. Because it's a little more than that, I've been saying, come to my live calls, learn all about this, and then talk to my friend Jennifer, who's like taking calls, explaining the 3 different payment options, what you're getting, what we're doing, how this plays out over the next 2 months, because it's all of June and all of July. So what I've noticed is I have lots and lots of people showing up live, lots of people who are interested, but very few people who are actually scheduling a phone call to talk to Jennifer. And I think there's kind of, again, spiritual people tend to be a little different than business people. We often react. I mean, I don't know. You work a lot more with a lot of business people, right? Bigger business people. Does that make sense? I don't know. It's just that kind of hesitancy, shyness to get on a phone call and, you know, say, so what's up? What's going on? How is this going to help me? Right? That's what I want people to do. Get on a freaking phone call with Jennifer and say, how is this going to change my life?
Well, yeah, it's interesting. I mean, because like, I wonder, it's like, obviously people are, I mean, ever since I've known you, people have always been drawn to you. They've always, you know, they show you do so great with your lives and with your book launches and all this stuff. Like you're, you know, just did a TED Talk, you're killing it. But it's interesting as to what what's happening where people aren't feeling or aren't going over to like really explore, well, hey, how could this help me? Because what I found is, even if I couldn't afford it, even if I wasn't sure, I've always gotten clarity from those types of calls. So even if I didn't go into the program, I'd be like, oh, interesting. Okay, like for me to be right for this program, I would need to be in this space if I wasn't right for it, right? So I wonder what it would look like. I wonder if that's a space I want to be in. I wonder what it looked like. And immediately, once you see something, you can't unsee it, right? So immediately something shows up or someone shows up or whatever to help kind of guide you into that next space, or the money shows up, or if it's something I really want to do and I don't have the finances, or the time shows up. This is one thing that I learned in business is never, ever don't do anything that you want to do because you don't have time. Because if you're saying you don't have time, it's because you're at capacity, right? I had one business coach who was like, you can never use the word overwhelmed anymore. Only use at capacity. You're at capacity. And the goal is always to increase your capacity, to be able to adjust your nervous system. So never, ever shy away from something you want to do just because you don't have time. That just means you're at capacity. The goal is to increase your capacity. Mm-hmm. And then you do it and you realize, oh, well, I can do this. Like, you know, I didn't die. It was a lot for the first 2 weeks, but then it was manageable. I got into the swing of it, all of it, right? So actually, we've got a few questions here. This is awesome. People are like online, they're there. So Ran is asking, can anybody read the Akashic Records, or does it need a certain spiritual gift?
The Akashic Record keepers, and I'm going to just take one step back and say, everyone has their own personal private Akashic Record library and their own Akashic Record keepers. So you have yours that are working just with you, and I have mine that are working just with me, right? Ella's got her own library and librarians. And so what they have said to me and been saying to me, honestly, for the last 10, 12, 15, 20, forever, it's your birthright. It is everyone's birthright. We all have clairs, right? We all have some level of clairvoyance, clairaudience, claircognizance, that's clear knowingness, clairsentience. We've got telepathics. Most of us have just not developed them yet. So even in this 2-month program, again, the reason the record keepers want me to do it as a 2-month program that has 3 Akashic readings included and 5 separate sessions to integrate what you've learned, to ask your own questions, to do more processes and exercises, to share what's coming up, to get group healing from me. All of that is included in this 2-month program because the record keeper said, we need more to help us really dive deep so that more people can really go really deep into the records without not just cursory. So for many people, they take my first course, they learn to read the records just like you were in first grade, practicing your, reading, see Jane run, run Jane run, right? And then they stop. And they don't really go any further. They may open their records occasionally. They may do a little bit of healing prayers or ask the record keepers for some healing, but they don't know anything really about the expanse, this infinite, huge expanse of the Akashic field, which includes the plan your soul wrote before you were born, the past lives that hold gifts and talents that you'd like to share now, some of the past lives that have the people that you're with in this life now, and some of the whys and the understanding and the reclaiming of gifts and love and rewiring. I mean, there's so much you can do. You can deal and work with clearing some of your ancestral lineage challenges, some of the programs in your ancestral lineage that you've inherited from your family, trauma from other lifetimes. I mean, it kind of really goes on and on. We work with healing past life trauma, understanding our soul lineage, updating and upgrading our genetic codes, clearing past life trauma that is affecting our health and our physical body, understanding our soul contracts so that we can really support the souls that we've come to support, and understand the challenging relationships that, you know, we all have some, right? So it would be like course one is like going to first grade and then stopping there. Well, how well would you do in the world if you dropped out of school after first grade, right? Mm-hmm. So course two is like going on to second, third, fourth, fifth. You have now opened to the expanse of the wisdom of you, because you are an expansive, infinite, wise soul. And that's all your self-mastery. That's why it's now a 2-month program. And it can transform your life in that way. So, you know, to me, because it's a bigger project, I really feel that it's important for people to have a conversation, whether it's with me or with my friend Jennifer, my virtual assistant, who's helping me out with this. I have certified consultants that I've trained over the last 12 years who are going to be doing some of the readings for people. It truly is your birthright to have access to this Akashic record library of you. And so I absolutely believe that we can all do it. Some people really quick, some people are like, bam, I get it. And it doesn't really matter. You never know. One of my students showed up one day, and she's now one of my Akashic teachers. So she showed up one day, she said, I had a booth at a crystal fair, very, very, very shy younger woman. And she came to my booth and she'd walk away. She got to come back and walk away. And I could finally talk to her. Had been talking to lots of other people. And she was interested. And I said, you know, just jump in, try it out. And she got it. She said, oh, I've done the tarot before, but I'm not a psychic. I can't really see. I don't know if I have any of these gifts. But I teach you a 5-step wisdom prayer system with access keys to open the records, with simple steps to learn to communicate with your record keepers and write the information you're receiving. There's many just tools that I teach you, calling back your energy, clearing your energy field, getting really embodied, being the sovereign of your body, energy field, and life. All of these are important aspects that actually help you access your own Akashic records. So I believe it is everyone's birthright. And sometimes we have to, you know, jump in and give it a try. And so that's why I say, if you're curious, if you're interested, then, you know, jump on my call tomorrow night, which is Tuesday night at 4 p.m. Pacific time. And Ella's going to drop that in the chat and learn more about what's coming up. And don't hesitate to, you know, schedule a call to talk to Jennifer and learn about the 2-month program or other options. I'm offering? So good question. Thank you.
Yeah. So Rand, the link is in the chat or in the comments. Just jump in tomorrow, hang out, and then I would highly, highly recommend, because one thing like I've always noticed, and again, I come from, I'm not personally in the spiritual healer realm in terms of what I do. But to me, it just always made very logical sense that my business, my relationships, my goals in general were never going to be able to grow beyond the capacity that I had. Like, it's just, it just doesn't, it will never, my business, everything will never get bigger than my identity, or I'll blow it up if it does. That's just what happens, right? Because we get so damn uncomfortable. So like you were saying before, with my experience with this, I found this work to be incredibly, incredibly beneficial, because it helps me see, we all have blind spots, like we all do, right? And it's helping me see clearly, okay, why are these emotions showing up? Why am I scared here? Why am I stressed here? Why am I, whatever it could be? What's happening? And being able to tap into this stuff is like incredibly valuable. Okay, Melanie had a question. Melanie said, I would love to know if the Akashic Records can help me trace back my RH negative bloodline. Neither of my parents have it, but my brother and I do. So where did it come from, and where did the RH negative bloodline really start? I want to see it from the beginning down to me.
Wow. Fascinating thought. And again, some of these really are who we are and our gifts, right? So really fine details sometimes people get, and I'm not sure how you would go about asking about that. The record keepers might come across and say something like, that came from your great grandfather or great 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 grandmother. I mean, I don't know how much or what kind of information you would be looking for in the records. I would say for most of us, the big piece of information is about the plan our soul wrote, the soul contracts we have with people in our life, the patterns and gifts and talents we want to share with other people in the world. And of course, the healing around these different aspects. So I can't honestly tell you. I've never asked about anything like that. It's a little bit more scientific and specific. Might be easier to find, to trace that genealogically. So I can't say yes or no. Honestly, I don't know, because I've never done that. I haven't gone there in the records. So sorry, I don't have a little better answer.
Let's see. It's a really, do you know RH negative blood types? Are you familiar with them?
Not particularly, no.
Really rare blood type. Really rare. That's interesting that she has it, but nobody in her family has it. That's super interesting, Melanie. I'd be curious to see if this is, I would recommend jump on the Tuesday call and see if anything resonates with you. I'd be curious to see if there is something in there. But again, like Lisa said, it's a bit more specific. She hasn't dove into that, that specifically before, but I'd be really curious, because it's a really rare blood type, and for it to show up apparently out of the blue, like Melanie's saying, that's super interesting.
Right.
There
might be some fascinating information in there about it, but I don't know how that works. I'm not the scientist, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, it's super interesting. Graham says, thank you for teaching me in the past. I'm so happy to be one of your international students. Okay. And then Rand had a follow-up question. He said, if I asked a question to the Akashic record keepers and I didn't get an answer, can I try later and see if I get an answer, or should I just leave it?
No, absolutely. So my record keepers tend to be kind of loud and sometimes honestly obnoxious. So they've said things to me like, you're not really ready for the answer to that right now, but come back later. So whether if it's silence or they're very specific, which is you're not ready now, or that information is not available now. There's some information that's a little bit more futuristic. I will sometimes do a reading for someone and I hear that they are here to invent something new, but it's kind of the energy's not here yet or ready yet. So they can't tell us what or why or when or anything, really. They can be like, you're going to invent something maybe 5 or 10 years in the future, but it's not here yet. So that's fascinating. But yes, I go back and ask. I'm a fan of asking again and again. I don't care. I mean, it's there for you. And so if you get no answer, you can say, is there a different way for me to ask that question? Right? Is there a better question for me to ask about that? Sometimes it's our question or the way we're looking at it that's not getting us an answer. Sometimes the question is almost too big to receive a specific answer for. Sometimes I'll have clients who will come to me and they'll be like, kind of, whatever, why am I here? And I fine tune that down to, what was your soul's plan? What, are there gifts and talents? What is your bigger kind of archetype? You can hone it down, but, most of us live 60, 70, 80 years, 90, 100 years, right? It's hard to answer a question that big in a small amount of time. So what I know is that the more specific the question is, the better the answer is. The more specific, the more guidance, the more steps to take. They can be much more direct and specific when it's about am I here to create this business now? They can be really, really clear about that. What am I here to do in my, next 60 years is like a little vague, right? So
I think you hit on something really, really important there. And I've said this, like I've had conversations about this where so much of the time we think that, the key is to find the right answer. I think the key is to ask the right question.
Yes.
And this is something that it's like Elisa was saying, her record keepers are quite loud. My messages tend to come through incredibly subtle. For example, I'll see a lot of repeating numbers, or I'll have different situations, different people that show up in my life and evoke the same outcome over and over, whether that outcome is feeling defeated or embarrassed or like I was wrong or whatever, saying, hey, this is something that's going to keep happening over and over until you address it, until you address it, until you address it. It was actually my friend Joshua, who you spoke to over the weekend. I was telling him about the repeating numbers thing. I'm like, man, they're just fucking everywhere. Like what? Like, what are you trying to tell me? Like what? Right. And Josh was like, well, do you write them down? And I was like, oh, what do you mean? He's like, do you put down, do you just have somewhere where you jot down what number you saw, what, just very quick, what was happening at the time, and then look up the meaning of it. He's like, I find the universe doesn't always speak to me in complete sentences, but it'll speak in fragments. Mm-hmm. And so pay attention. And I've started doing that. And I'm like, oh, it's kind of piecing together. So Rand, I think sometimes there's an aspect of just asking to be able to see what you're not seeing. The perspective shift can be huge, but I cut you off.
No, I mean, and it's very true to look for the subtle. Many people, when they start accessing the Akashic Records, they are more feeling. Their clairsentience is more developed. So they might not be seeing, or they're looking to see with their eyeballs, where it's actually in your mind's eye. Right? So starting, again, these are why I like to teach people more than less, because after, 35 years of study myself and teaching myself, there's so much information that's useful. When we realize
pre-meditation,
when we realize that we don't see with our eyeballs, but we see in our mind's eye, it's much easier to start to at least soften our gaze, to look at a blank floor or wall, to turn your vision inwards, to listen to the subtle messages, even though they sound like you, and you think, I'm just thinking, right? This is why I teach people to write and let it flow through them. But definitely always looking for those subtle messages. I mean, I have full-on dialogues with the record keepers, and I would probably say 70% of my students tend towards that. Some start with a sentence and it turns into, paragraphs and eventually into pages. And some people really get so much of their messages from clairsentience, that feeling sense, and claircognizance, which is a very powerful knowingness. I just know, right? And a lot of our record information comes through that way. For me, I often will see a little snapshot, so I kind of know where, what, when it is. I get a little out of focus snapshot because my clairvoyance needs glasses. But then I know the story.
Yeah.
That's enough. It's not a booming voice. It's a claircognizance. My heart knows the answer. And as we let that flow through us, again, it's energy, so it needs to move. That starts to move and expand for us.
I think as you're saying this, it's kind of resonating with me, where a lot of the gift that this work has, and one of the biggest gifts this work is, like your work specifically has given me, is really the ability to trust myself. Like so much of the time we second guess ourselves. And of course there's things that should be talked over or fact checked or whatever. But when I started to tap into this stuff and notice what I was feeling, I would start, and I'm kind of like, I'll have dreams that those scenarios will show up in the future. I woke up this morning. I had a great day yesterday. Got some work done, chilled, watched a great movie, slept 9 hours. It was crazy. Super good. Woke up angry, like just pure anger. And I don't get angry super often. And I was like, whoa, okay, what's happening? So first thing I did is I was like, hey, just go outside and journal and just feel where this goes. And the first thing I noticed, I was like, oh my God, most of this isn't mine. And I never would have trusted that before. But I had been really, really tapped in with someone last night and was having a really deep conversation. And I realized, I was like, oh, I'm tapping into them. This is their, and that sounds crazy. That sounds like I wouldn't talk to my family, maybe not crazy, but I wouldn't talk to my family about that, for instance. They wouldn't resonate with that. But I think this aspect of when you start to really tap into this, and with the intention of getting clear on your guidance, where does that live? How does it come through for you? And you start paying attention. You don't have to talk about it if you don't want to, but you get that ability to trust yourself and then you start to see it play out, and you're like, oh my God, that was accurate. Like I was bang on. And I didn't have to confirm it. I didn't have to ask that person. I was bang on, and I can trust that within me. And everybody has different, like Lisa was saying, there's clairsentient, clairvoyant, clairaudient, whatever. I think every human being has this ability, but it's a muscle, like any muscle. And you got to be able to develop it and then isolate it and feel it. And then you strengthen it and you strengthen it and you strengthen it. And it's the coolest way to be able to tap into, just to be able to really tap into you and your identity and your soul's purpose and everything that this work. So again, I would highly, highly encourage you to jump on the call on Tuesday, check out the work. Okay, DC had a question. I realized I cannot reply. If I reply in the Facebook group, it pulls up the feed, and that made that noise that it did before. So I was like, okay, so I can't reply in the comments. So DC had a question. Tell me, I feel like I'm not sure on this question. So tell me if this makes sense to you. So he said, I have an aspect up who is a child, but seems like she is resistant and connected to an imposter spirit. I'm not sure about the word aspect. He said, I have an aspect up who is a child.
Okay.
It seems like she is resistant and connected to an imposter spirit. Could you help me understand and clear the interference?
Oh, well, I get that.
Okay.
So, we have aspects of ourselves. We have the inner child, and it sounds like this is an inner child aspect that has that. Now, the imposter is interesting because, see, I'm not in your records. And so that type of work to me is very specific to diving deep into your personal records and doing healing work there. So I'm just in my records, group records. But to me, the imposter piece is something that is blocking you from being able to move forward and create a happier life, whatever that means to you, right? It's like my example would be, who am I to write a book, right? I'm nobody. What do I know? So that's like, we feel like an imposter. Who am I to start a business? I'm just, whatever we just are, we think. So type in, is that what you're feeling? And I will do some group healing on that energy of the imposter energy. I don't know that I can tap all the way quite back into that inner child, but if we can clear some of that imposter energy, that could be very useful for everybody, right? Because who wants that?
Yeah, it's cool. Like, DC, you just reply or write another comment or reply to that if you have any follow-up to that. But it's really cool because I remember when we were first doing the and I've worked with you, quite a lot over these past 2 years. And it's, what was interesting is a lot of the blocks that I had prior to doing the Akashic record work were around avoiding certain, like, it all came down to avoiding certain feelings. I really didn't want to be wrong. I didn't want to be embarrassed. I didn't want to be scared. I didn't want to be vulnerable. I didn't want to be defeated. I didn't want to. And so I was creating relationships in my life where I would get manipulated and I was wrong and I was embarrassed and I was defeated and I was vulnerable. Business situations where somebody would end up like being totally, they didn't do what they said they could do. And it was a total sham, where I was wrong, where I was defeated, where I was embarrassed. And it wasn't until that clicked, and it was a lot through your work that happened, where I was like, oh my God, I'm not making space for these. Like, what do you think you need to grow a business? Like, you're going to be wrong sometimes. You're going to be defeated. You're going to be embarrassed sometimes. Things aren't going to work, etc. I'm not making space for these emotions. And so it's stalling, because when you numb one side, you numb the growth, you numb the other. You can't just selectively numb. Right. And so I noticed a lot of the imposter syndrome that was showing up for me when I first began working with Lisa, or what I labeled as imposter syndrome, was really just the very tiring attempt to control outcomes and emotions. And I would run circles around these emotions, overperforming. Like, I'll show you how good I am. I'll show you how capable I am. I'll show you how much due diligence I do. Overperforming and tiring myself out and launching offers that weren't in alignment with what I wanted to create, big picture. And oh my God, just to avoid feeling these things, even though there's something that could be in alignment. So, DC, if you're feeling like an imposter or whatever, again, I would highly jump into the call on Tuesday. But that was a question I wasn't aware to ask until I started really tapping into this stuff and realized that I was more scared of these feelings than I was of like damn near anything. And
isn't it true? But it's
totally
true. It is true for most of us.
Totally.
Who wants a
They're
feeling?
running our life.
Right. Like, and the pain on top of it, the pain we have experienced, those embarrassments, all of that trauma, all of that fear from childhood that is so locked in there that, we don't want anyone to know we have that, right? So all of that you were experiencing, of course, you can start to unpack it because you're like, oh my God, this is what we call a karmic pattern. Karma is never a punishment, but they are patterns. I'm going to experience this again and again and again until I can figure it out, until I can release it, heal it, let it go, and move on. Otherwise, you could have had a whole life of that if it never, showed up, that you were like, I'm really just running from, hiding from, ignoring any emotion that is painful. And you can't grow a business. You can't create a loving, supportive relationship, right?
Yeah, you can't have a community. You can't, if you're, and this is stuff, and this is what I mean, where for me personally, Lisa's like, I think she's just more tapped into this than I am, which is why she teaches it and I don't. But for me personally, my stuff tends to show up in subtleties. And when I look at the big picture pattern where, oh my God, this relationship showed up and it ended up being these emotions and it killed me. This business opportunity showed up and it ended up being these emotions and it killed me. When I look at the subtleties on how different situations are working out, I'm like, oh, okay, now I'm more scared of this. Like, am I through it? No. But my next question is, okay, how do I make space for these? Because avoiding them isn't working. Like, let's just be real. Like, avoiding them, trying to control them, that's not working. It hasn't worked, right? So like, okay, well, what do these look like when they're in my life in a healthy way? How do I make space for them? How do I embrace it? How do I let it go? Like those are the questions that are asked. It's not how do I solve them and never feel them again? Because that, to me, that doesn't seem
right.
doable.
No, you're right. You can't, but we can also say, maybe where does this stem from in this life?
Oh, that's good.
And so that's a great question to ask the Akashic record keepers, because when they say, well, that like experience when you were 2 and your uncle who didn't have any children, was mean to you or whatever it was, right? Embarrassed you and said you were just such a stupid baby, and you were a baby, but you took it personally, right? We have crazy things that happen very early in our life. And what I find the record keepers are phenomenal for is like, that was triggered by this, what probably every other adult thought was, not very nice, but whatever, not a big deal. And here you're spending your lifetime trying to avoid it. So when we go, oh, I can go back to that 2-year-old trauma and clear, release, delete some of that emotional pain for the 2-year-old. I think just as that other person was talking about, that imposter syndrome is coming from the inner child, from the little baby, from the toddler, whatever that was, right? Mm-hmm. And so where did it start? What can I know about it? What can I heal? What can I clear? And this is all of what I teach in Akashic Self-Mastery. I teach you to heal, to literally move outside of time and space in this quantum field of the all, which is where your Akashic records are stored, and to clear and release that emotional pain that has been buried, we think really well, but is still, showing its ugly head whenever it's inappropriate. So, the records are phenomenal for starting to understand and track a lot of these challenges that are running our lives. And they don't have to be running your life. You can go,
we don't know. Like, this is really, really important. We don't, like, I think for people who are just getting into this, because like you're so tapped into this that you know it, right? But for like, if you haven't been doing this work, you don't know that this is running. You probably know through situation, like look at your external reality, right? Like what's in the bank account? What does your relationships look like? What does the business look like? That'll give you a greater indication than anything, because these aren't conscious thoughts. These are like, they're literally operating systems. They're the programming inside of the app that you don't see. Right. You just have this app and when you push it, it does this, right? Right. We don't know this stuff. And I think that's a really important, because you won't be consciously aware of it. It'll be showing up externally. because that's what we always manifest on the external is what's happening on the internal. But this is stuff that is so cool to uncover. And I really use the word cool because it's really that one of those things where you're like, oh my God, like I get it. And then it's this big relief and even though it might not be the best news in the world, it's better than chilling and not knowing and not feeling good. Like that's what sucks. What sucks is like something's wrong and I don't know what's wrong and I don't know what I'm missing. And I don't know, that's what sucks. Right. What's good is being like, oh, okay, I'm starting to see it. I'm starting to get clarity. I'm starting to next step. And that's the stuff you almost don't want it too fast. That's the stuff where you get really like, again, specific next step question and you get better and better at those questions. You almost don't want it too much too fast. It's a lot. It's a lot to like process in your identity. Okay, hold on. So Melanie had a reply and okay, this is being really annoying because it's only showing me a certain amount. She had a reply. So she was like, yeah, I'm really curious because she said with the Rh negative blood type, and I agree, I've seen this too. It's been linked to 3 different alien blood types. It's said to be the blood type of Jesus. It said, it's really interesting. So Melanie, I would encourage you to ask around it and ask for guidance or insight as to what would be the best next step. I would say jump on the call on Tuesday, just because like, why not? But yeah, that is really, really interesting. Okay. And then DC had a reply. Melanie, put another comment in the chat if you want to like follow up on that or you have any more questions for Lisa. DC put another comment in the chat. He said, yeah, the imposter spirit is control and manipulation is a control and manipulation being that has connections to my inner child and aspects of me. Right. And he also said, if we could do some clearing at this imposter syndrome and inner child, that would be great. And then DC also asked, can we clear the fear of being responsible, the fear of moving forward, or the fear of moving forward / future, and inner child fears of abandonment?
Yes. Yeah, let's do that. Because inner child's coming up. I'm sure that, some of what you're talking about, Ella, also has to do with inner child. We all have that inner child who is hiding in some way or another, right? Who wants to stay hidden, keep us safe. I find a lot of the inner child, right? A lot of that is response to fear of parents or fear of some situation, right? So if a parent hit us or was angry or yelled, if we had an alcoholic father who came home, raging or something like that, we would go climb under the bed. Well, that aspect of that inner child is still hiding under the bed, trying to keep us safe. And that keeps us often will show up now as an adult as someone who's just very shy, very soft-spoken, afraid to say no, right? To all of the different afraid ofs, right? To be seen, to speak out loud, certainly to, be in front of a group of people. So it keeps that person who has a bigger purposes, many gifts, from sharing their gifts because they're afraid that daddy's going to come and beat them. Oh. Right. And so literally in the Akashic Records, we can go back outside of time and space to that 2-year-old under the bed and do some energetic clearing for her or him, and then start to unravel the programming that comes with the fear. So we get programmed to stay quiet, to stay small, to stay hidden so that daddy doesn't come and beat me, right? So, or whatever it might have been, but we program ourselves to not be seen. And that program continues through adulthood. It will continue on unless we can work through it, to combust it, to dismantle it. And that's one of the things that I do for my my clients is I dismantle them, and I teach That's a bit of a depth. I don't usually teach the dismantling of programs until Akashic Career Mastery, but I actually teach people to go on and create careers with this work for themselves. So people who are interested in a spiritual career, because I know lots of people are waking up and they're like, I'm done with corporate. I want to be a healer. I want to do something spiritual, right? So I've created Akashic Career Mastery. So you do self-mastery for 2 months, and then you can go on to career mastery and become a certified Akashic consultant with my school, which is a whole nother year program. So all of that said, I'm going to open the records of the group that's here, not anybody personal, but just the group energy of everybody who's gathered today on Facebook, or who is watching this later or tomorrow or whenever you watch it. You can still tap into this Akashic energy. So let's just all drop into our heart center, and close your eyes if you can. If you're not in a public space, you can just invite your soul to come down more fully present into your physical body, as we ask the divine lords of unconditional love to help us center fully in this moment as we create this sacred space. Please wrap us in your love and protection, and allow us to travel to the highest realms of the Akasha available to us today. Please help us relay our multidimensional hearts open to divine love and release all resistance. Lords of the Akashic Record, please guide us to the deepest truth we can access now. Support us in healing and releasing that which no longer serves on our true path. We give great thanks for your divine love and support on this journey today. So just with your eyes closed, if you have them closed, just notice what you notice. I feel that and see the silvery blue column of Akashic light and love. You may feel the beautiful unconditional love really wrapping around you and supporting you, holding you in this sacred space. Some people feel the energy is swirly or cool or warm. We're all quite unique. So whatever you're noticing is just perfect for you. And we ask our collective Akashic record keepers and beings of light to help us to clear the imposter syndrome, whether it's just coming up for you now, or we're going to go all the way back to the inner child and do some clearing back in our babyhood of where we felt, or somehow someone made us feel like an imposter. And interesting, I don't know if you have a brother, DC, but somebody's brother showed up apologizing. So someone in the group, whether they're not here now or later, but it's like a older brother who was kind of bullying of the little 3-year-old, 4-year-old, kind of, just, how sometimes an older sibling can just give you so much crap and make you feel terrible about themselves. And sometimes somebody has done that to them, often is why we get that passed down. So I'm just going to clear anyone, brother, sister, mother, father, aunt, uncle, grandparent, whoever could have been in your life as a small child who made you feel bad about yourself, like you were faking it, like you weren't good enough or smart enough or to be or do or think what you were saying about. So just clearing not only the people, but that emotional pain, right? That shame, that fear. any of those emotions connected to that. We are just clearing, releasing, deleting them from the time you were about, well, I just always figure let's just go back to birth, because you never know when people made us feel bad. I actually worked with somebody a few days ago who said that their mother would not pick them up when they were a baby, and they cried because the mother felt like the baby was manipulating her. Now, just try and wrap your brain around some 18-year-old who's a child herself, who won't pick up her crying 2-month-old because she thinks the baby is manipulating her. And we wonder why we're such a mess. Right? Just mind-boggling. Clearing that and all of these different kind of energies and emotions and traumas and fears and all that kind of collective emotional pain, which creates this imposter syndrome as we grow up, right? Then there's the 7-year-old and the 8-year-old and the 9-year-old and the 10-year-old who's being made to feel bad because they're not teenagers. Because they may think they can do something cool and they fall down. Whatever any of that all is, that is what creates this level of mostly unconscious imposter syndrome. Fear, shame, pain, sadness, guilt. There's a lot of it in here. The record keepers are still clearing. You might feel that in your body as it's kind of cleared and released and pulled out. Okay, so we're just starting to clear, release, delete that energy that comes together, creating that, that program of the imposter. So we clear the emotional pain, some of the stories, some of the specifics that show up. And now we're going to deprogram that imposter syndrome program. And a program to me often looks somewhat like a cage. Often it's an energy of, it could be square, it could be a ball, but it's made of kind of metal tubes. And the connectors, when we can clear and release and delete them, the whole thing starts to fall apart. So it's often around us, so we often don't notice it, except for when we bump into it. We feel like, I'm going to go do that. And then that program says, you're an imposter. You can't do that. Who are you to go do that? You know, you're nobody. And so it's trying to keep you safe. But it's actually holding you back from creating the life that your heart and soul desire. Don't forget to breathe, drink water. There's actually quite a bit of clearing here.
Whoa, my heart's beating really fast.
Right. It starts, as it moves through, we often feel it in our body. And sometimes after a clearing, you might feel kind of the sad or some of the fear, or some of the garbage that has been hidden in your chakra system and your energy field, hidden away. And now it's moving out through your auric field to be released into the ethers. But while it's moving out, sometimes it's for a few minutes, sometimes it's for a day or two, depending on how extreme it is in you. we often experience it a little stronger while it's moving through. So that's why we breathe and we drink water. People often yawn when their body's clearing. We yawn, some people burp, whatever it is. I breathe loudly. I keep just blowing it out. That's why I'm like, yeah, just blow it out with me. It's gonna, and it feels good because you feel that release from your body. Okay. That's a big program, right? Very big program. Yeah, good. All right, beautiful. So that's starting to feel like that is clearing, releasing, dissipating, even the program. So we want to fill everyone up with our highest Akashic energy, light, and wisdom after clearing that imposter syndrome and program. Great question. Thank you. Beautiful. Good. I see my friend Brenda is here. She's taken some of my workshops, I think. And she's saying, what can we do to really clear the emotions? It's bringing up all of the energy, this intensity. So definitely all of this type of healing, Akashic healing, is fabulous. But, the record keepers also want us to remember that when we can do simple things like own our physical body, right? Just like you were saying, Ella, you woke up angry and you realized, oh, this isn't even mine. One of our biggest our big teachings from the records is you need to own your energy field, be the sovereign, be the queen or king of your physical body and energy field and auric field, so that you feel what you feel, not what everybody else feels. The other thing that's interesting too, Ella, about you were talking about, sleeping great and then waking up tired. And then sometimes part of what happens is we bump into some not nice energy on the astral plane. And so sometimes we have, we might not remember a dream, but we may bump into some kind of old dark energies on the astral. And that can wake us up. We might feel exhausted or angry or upset. Or even physically, I'll get sometimes an attack on the astral plane by some of the dark energies that can live there. So, again, in my Akashic Record course, I am always about teaching so many tools to clear other people out of your energy field, to clear entities and dark energy patterns, to fill yourself up with your highest Akashic energy and create a rainbow shield, and to be able to call back all the energy that you've left laying about, right? So lots and lots and lots of tools that I teach. And actually in the webinar tomorrow, Tuesday at 4 p.m. Pacific time, I will be doing a bunch of group healing also. So really taking good care of yourself, owning your field, clearing people out, all of these, being grounded and centered, filling your body with the highest energy of light and love that you can exude, because that also is super helpful and profound to mitigate other people's energies and a lot of the, honestly, a lot of the trauma and challenges that we're experiencing out in the world.
I love this. Okay, Lisa, like we legit have so many more questions coming in. I would keep Lisa all day if I could, but I can't afford it. So, tell you what, everybody who's got questions, thank you for showing up. Marie Posa says, yes, the shame and fear is something I wasn't even aware was holding me back. Love that. Thank you for showing up. Tap in tomorrow. Tap into the free training tomorrow. The link is way down there now, way down there at the bottom of the comments where nobody can see. So I'm going to repost the link So that is free training tomorrow, 4 p.m. PST, and that is Tuesday, May 24th. So tap in there. Also, Lisa did not want to show up without making sure that you got a free gift, which is just the type of person that she is. So there is a free gift here to help. It's a free meditation that will help you tap into, access your Akashic records, and play with all of the stuff we've been doing. Lisa, what do you think? I mean, I honestly, this was really cool, and the engagement's been phenomenal. I feel like we should just do this twice a month.
Yeah, absolutely. So watch, check in. When I plan ahead, I try and send out an email, but you never know, because sometimes we're more random than that. So watch your email, watch here on my my page, and definitely we'll do more healing. We'll do more teaching, more meditations, visualizations, all of the above to help you to really transform your life as we're going forward and creating the new earth. So thank you for being here. Love you all. We close and lock the group Akashic Records. We thank the record keepers for the love, the wisdom, and the light. And I will hopefully see you tomorrow night, Tuesday night at 4 p.m. Pacific time, 7 Eastern. You have to register and you'll get a Zoom link for that. So go ahead and do that, and I'll see you tomorrow night, and then again really soon here on Facebook Live.
All right, bye everybody. Thanks for hanging out. You guys made this really fun. Honestly, thanks for hanging.